You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Hey. Welcome to another episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. And I'm really excited about our show today. I actually have guests from Illinois who have driven in to be on our show. And we've both given shout outs to both podcasts. And these are really sharp young men who are offering a real thoughtful critique of society, of culture, with the lens of faith, the lens of, being millennials, the lens of being very thoughtful. And we've just been having fun in the studio today. And so, Will and Kellen, I want to welcome you to Madison. I want to welcome you to the Black Like Me studio. How are you all doing today?
Thank you so much for having us.
It's good to be here,
It's good to be
Madison's a decent place.
It's a good place.
Yeah, it's nice. Madison is nice. We appreciate y'all being here. I mean, I've already been accosted once.
Only once?
Madison. Yeah, look, I've been here for one afternoon. I've already
Well, you got twisted in here. What do you expect?
Maybe that's my fault. I've already been offered
not
weed.
my fault.
I've been offered weed by an old lady. I've been threatened to be beat up by an old lady.
She said,
Did she have a green blouse?
I don't even remember what she was wearing.
How much did she say? How much did
10, 20,
She
and
said
30.
she got 10, 20, 30.
Okay, yeah.
And then I told her I wasn't really interested at the moment.
If you said 5, she would have hooked you up.
She threatened to put her hands on me.
Wow.
She said,
it
Josh
got real serious. Standing right outside of City Hall. So look, I didn't know Madison was that ratchet, but apparently y'all got it cracking out here, man.
Dave, don't say crack unless you got something.
No, I ain't got none of that.
Yeah,
Y'all got it popping. I got a soda right here.
Listen, you all. This is the first time that we've had guests who are also podcasters in the studio with me or on the show. And so their podcast is called Wild Wild World. And you guys have only been doing it beginning in 2018.
Yeah.
But you got tens of thousands of folks that are following you and liking what you're doing. And so I really appreciate that. So I'm introducing you all to the Black Like Me Network. So you want to check these young men out. So it's Will Horne, who grew up all over Denver or in Colorado, but also in Ohio, and Kellen Reeves. You're from Chicago. But I'm not going to give your government address because I learned that earlier.
I mean, I would love to represent Chicago. I spent some of the best years of my life in Chicago, but I grew up in Minneapolis.
That's right.
Yeah, the beautiful Minneapolis, Minnesota, South Side.
Now, I'm going to say to you what people say to me, because the only city that has a lot of black people that's further north and west from us is Minneapolis. There are black people in Minneapolis?
As everyone said, look.
Are you from St. Paul?
No.
You been to Lake Minnetonka?
I ain't east side of that city. I don't think I've been in Lake Minnetonka. I was in the city limits. If I couldn't get there on a bus, I probably wasn't going there. But, I'll tell you, I told the folks in college when I went to school at DePaul, and they were like, I didn't know there were black people in Minnesota. I'm like, man, my roommate is black from Minnesota. My boy Dante over here black from Minnesota. Like, y'all, 7 black people from Minnesota just, here within this block. You know what I mean?
That's so right.
We're definitely out there.
So now, I love saying that because people say that to me about being from Madison. So since you all are further north, people say, oh, I didn't know black people were, in Wisconsin. Well, who you think does all the work? Of course we here. Governor Dodge brought us here, as slaves. I'm going to free y'all if you work in these lead mines. I'm going to free y'all in 6 months. And he didn't. He lied. And we named a whole county after him and made him our first territorial governor. Hey, but that's enough on that note. I digress. I'm just trying to say sometimes white people lie. And so
sometimes
not all. And I didn't say all white. Will, I did not say all white people. That's why I just.
All right.
I thought
Will know. Will know because they've been lying to Will. And so no. I'm really glad that you all are on here. So, Kellen, one of the things that we do that's a mainstay on Black Like Me is that we have something that's called the Black Icebreakers.
Oh, yes.
And so we just we just like to check in with folks because it's interesting to see the similarities we have as black folks, whether we're from Minneapolis or the ATL or LA or Seattle. We just got some, we have some of these commonalities, and my white listeners really enjoy these. And so let me just start off with some of the basics.
Hold on, before you start, I gotta say I've been wanting to do this since I started listening to your podcast. So I don't know what questions you got. But I got some thoughts on opinions. If you drop a couple on me, I got some thoughts on opinions. So I'm excited. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. I'm going to start off just real slow. Grits or cream of wheat?
Man, oh man, oh man. Grits. I don't understand how anybody could choose cream of wheat over grits. When I was growing up, remember I went to daycare and they tried to give me some cream of wheat, and I thought at first it looked like grits, and then I saw cream. I was like, "What is that?
What is it?"
Yeah, and I had no desire, and I wouldn't touch it. And they tried to get me to eat it. I'm not eating no cream of wheat. Grits all day, every day.
Butter or sugar on your? I mean, butter and sugar or butter and salt.
I mean, the listeners don't know this, but I'm not a Nazi. Therefore, I would never put sugar on my grits. What are we talking about? I don't understand how people put sugar. Why would you put sugar on?
Because it's
do
breakfast.
You put sugar on your fried chicken? I don't understand. Like, it's grits. It's not supposed to be. It's sugar.
It's cereal.
I'm sorry. It's butter, salt, pepper, maybe a little, maybe a little cheese, maybe
now,
a little bit.
If I got
cheese.
shrimp in it, I'll put some salt and pepper.
See, shrimp, shrimp and grits a whole different thing. Shout out my wife; she makes some delicious shrimp and grits. That's a whole different situation.
But you put salt on it.
That's a whole different thing. You know,
where your folks from? Alabama, Miami.
Look, my folks from Minneapolis. My pops is from Miami. My mom is from Minneapolis.
Your mom is from Minneapolis.
My mom born and raised in Minneapolis. My grandpa from Kansas. My grandma born and raised in Minneapolis. Well. Might have been born in Memphis. Actually, I don't remember.
Did she grow up with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis?
Real talk, yeah.
Did she really?
Yeah, actually, like she did literally grow up down the block and with specifically Terry Lewis. Yeah,
really.
My uncle went to high school with Prince, so like we got all that. I grew up down. I grew up on the same block as
Morris
Day.
She used to date Morris Day.
I don't. If she did, I don't know.
Because you kind of look like Morris. You kind of look like Morris Day. So I'm not trying to start nothing.
I know I look like.
Somebody
like
bring
daddy,
me a mirror.
I do look like my dad. I know that. So maybe they cousins. But look, I grew up on the block as a guitarist from a mint condition. You know what I mean? Like all Minneapolis music. And my mother. You of age? You might know the Sounds of Blackness.
Yes.
My mom was in the Sounds of Blackness.
Okay, so I'm not gonna mess with your blackness thing because that just
real talk.
No,
like,
you can listen. You can be from Alaska because if your mom was in Sound of Blackness,
I've been to Flight Time Studios.
I believe in the
yeah
and the power.
I've been to the sets of the music video. I've been to Flight Time Studios. I don't play video games with Boys to Men. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up when mama ain't have a babysitter. I'd be at the studio sitting in the game room. So I mean,
that's really good.
Like,
so let me tell you something, Black Like Me listeners. When you're black and you grew up in a city like Minneapolis or Madison, you have to go through this whole liturgy. You have to show your whole pedigree.
Oh yeah.
Because people question our blackness all the time.
They do.
So we have to let them know that we used to hang out with Boys to Men, and our mamas used to dance with Morris Day, and my uncles used to bring in the mirror.
Because your uncle dancing with boys. I said you said it, Mama. If you listening, I ain't put that out there.
Oh, you didn't say that? Okay, I just kind of. She didn't dance with Morris Day.
I don't know nothing about that.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if she did or didn't.
No, I just figured if anybody who feed their child grits with salt might dance with Morris Day.
I don't know how you put this shit
Man.
on the, I don't understand.
So you young, Kellen. So you born like in the mid '80s. So so your blue jeans weren't iron. So you know nothing about pressed.
I know a little bit about the starch jeans. You know what I mean? Like,
did you wear starch jeans?
Yeah.
The older kids
this
did?
way. I didn't actually have the starch. So I just ironed the mess out
That's
my
how you
jeans
do
till
it,
I got
right.
the crease. I ain't had the actual
But
starch.
you actually had the crease.
Yeah, I tried to.
Okay, all right. That makes up a little bit.
Crease, you know?
Have you ever yelled at your mother or said, "I hate you"?
No.
Okay,
No.
all right. Just curious
Lord
about
Jesus.
that. Like me. Let me see if I can find some other
I have
questions.
not
Just
done
really,
that.
do you ever say, "Mom, I wish you were dead"?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
You ever tell your mom to get out of my room?
I didn't have no rooms in my house. I slept in a room, but it wasn't my room. It was her room.
You like,
It was
get out of
her
my
room.
sleeper sofa.
No.
Get out.
That was her house. I just rented space there with my chores. That's all.
Did you or a relative ever make a sandwich out of something besides meat or cheese?
Oh yeah.
Oh, give me an example.
Yeah, peanut butter. Now I ain't do no
Mayonnaise sandwiches?
I didn't do mayonnaise sandwiches.
How about ketchup sandwiches?
Nah, cause I ain't like ketchup. Look, I would just eat straight up bread. Honestly, like I just eat bread. If I ain't had nothing,
Wonder bread.
We had Wonder bread. Then my mama got on until we had wheat bread, but it was
My mom did that to me, too.
soft wheat bread that might as well have been Wonder bread, but they might have put like a few extra grains of wheat in there, something like that, and dyed it brown. So,
So yeah,
like that's all it was. But I just straight up eat the bread. Like,
did you or anybody in your family make toast under the broiler in the oven, like stove toast?
That's real hood. I don't
Real hood.
That's what my grandma
I
used
don't
to
know nothing
do, man.
about that.
Your grandma
I
used to
don't
do
know
that?
about
did that. My grandma did that to this
Well,
day.
your grandma did that.
South
Really?
Carolina, but
See, well, I need to
that's
see some baby
country then.
pictures
Maybe it ain't hood, that's country.
because you look like like your grandfather might have been black. So I need to see some baby
I
pictures.
don't know,
You
man. I
look,
don't know.
you look kind of
He
quarter
got
black.
the Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, he got
the
this. Yeah, he really does. But wait, but I remember Kevin was laughing. Kevin, you ever had bread in toast in the oven? That's how you make toast. So like my daughter brings her friends over, Buffy and Misty and them, and we put toast in the oven. They're like, "What do you?" what are you doing? And then we bring out that golden toast, like,
Well, you know, so
they go home and try to make it, and mother's like, what are you doing, Misty? And
my grandmother used to. So when I heard broiler, like my mind went to like the bottom.
Way
of
in the
oven.
bottom, yeah.
That's what my grandma used to put toast in the oven.
She's a real deal.
When I be at my grandma's house, she put the toast in the oven.
She know what's up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let me see if I got a few others. Let me see. Do you know anyone who's been accidentally burned by a straightening comb?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
You know what a straightening comb is?
Oh yeah.
Now
put
you
that bad boy on the stove, get it hot.
Right. Now listen. Now you might be too young for this, but in my generation we couldn't say the word lie. We had to say story. So were you allowed? Could you say lie growing up? Or were there people you could not say it around?
I've been told that. I can't say for sure where it was, if it was my mom's rule or whatever, but I definitely have been told that before. We don't say lie. We say story. Yeah.
Do you know what the term TenderHeaded means?
Oh yeah.
What is wait, hold on.
I'm be real with y'all.
Tyler, do you know what you know what it means to be tenderheaded? You don't know? See, Will's quarter black, so I'm not gonna ask Will. Will, do you know what it means to be tenderheaded?
Tenderheaded? I mean, I can make some guesses, but
what does it sound like?
I mean, easily influenced, soft-headed.
Oh no! Tell him. Wait, Kevin's over here laughing. He knows a tender. I was tenderheaded.
According to my wife, I'm tenderheaded. So I got these baby dreads in my hair. I've been growing my hair out. You know, my wife twisted because she's awesome and amazing. I love you, baby.
Yes.
Get my
and they look good
my
too.
3 husband points right there.
That's right.
So she tell me I'm tenderheaded, but look, I got an excuse. I ain't never had braids and dreads and twists and nothing like that in my life. So I'm like, this is the first time anybody been yanking on my hair like that. Yeah, so she like, you tenderheaded. Like,
so like back in the Afro days, fellas, you know, your people call them angel food cake cutters, but we call them picks. And so white folks who are listening, just think about your grandmother's angel food cake cutter. We combed our hair with them before y'all cut cake with them. And so I used to get it right here on the temples and way back here, because they call this, you too young for this, but this part of your hair, the old folks used to call it the kitchen.
Yeah, that's the kitchen part.
And I had a real tender, so it would kink up around there. So my mom would be like, boy, stop being so tender.
Popping that bad boy.
You can hear pop. And so tender, so I was so glad when the ball fades came. I was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, barbering black Jesus. Because they cut all this stuff down so it can't tighten up. So tenderheaded means your hair gets sore. So my hair, if I go 2 weeks without a haircut, just touching the top of my head hurts. And I know you must have had to take some ibuprofen before they twist it.
No. I just had to grit my teeth and take it. That's all.
But
you know, up for about a year before that, I grew my hair out, so I had to get used to picking it out again and all that sort of thing. So you know, my hair had a boot camp. You know what I mean? So I had some time to get back used to it, because I kept the fade for 20-some years. You know. So.
Yeah, that's funny because not many people know what kitchen is. So you do have an old soul. Let's see. Can you swim?
Yes, okay. I can. Not great, but
you can enough not to not drown.
Yeah, I could have swam to the boat in Titanic.
You could have. Okay. Let me see if I got any more. You could lie story. We did that. Tenderheaded. You good on that? Do you know what a syllable spanking is?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You bet not ever in your life. Yes.
You know, I preached a couple of weeks. Sometimes I cuss on this show so people don't know I'm really a pastor. I don't know where the hell they get that idea from. But I was preaching about Jesus in the temple, turn over the tables, and I said, I think Jesus walked up in there doing some syllable, didn't I tell you my daddy's house? So there are people who didn't really get it, because we have a multicultural church. They're like, what's he? So y'all got to understand syllables. There's no way Jesus could be that mad and not do some syllable speaking. So that's when you talk to people through it. All right, in 15 seconds, tell me as many uses for Vaseline you can think of. Keep it clean. This is a family show.
Them ashy knees, them ashy elbows, them ashy lips. You got to burn. You rub it on a burn. You got to cut. You put it on your cut right there. What else? In between them toes. You can put it in your hair if you really.
Yeah, okay, time's up.
That
was really good. Ding, 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 man. I should be on Black Jeopardy. That was good, man. You've been studying the show. Oh man. Okay. All right, that's really good, Kellen. Okay, man, you earned your stripes.
Did I pass my bar?
Oh, you did, man. You did.
Okay, cool.
Kellen, you're black, man.
You're black, but funny and black.
Having me, I'm out now.
Man, but you do have an old soul. When you say kitchen, man, I haven't heard anybody say kitchen, man, in decades. And so, Mr. Horne, William Horne, you're up now.
Oh, thanks.
And so we have a segment of our show for our brothers and sisters of a lighter hue. And we don't call it a black icebreaker, obviously, but we call it what in the world are white people thinking? And so I just want to talk about, growing up black, Kellen, I'm sure you've experienced this. Armor Bearer Kevin, I'm sure you have too. People always come to us for like their black source. Like, why do black people say axe? Like, they want us to explain everything for black people. So I think it's only fair that you explain Caucasiandom. To me,
Caucasity.
It's caucasity, caucasiousness. So it's just got a couple of questions for you.
All right.
Will, thank you for being such a good sport. Okay, like when I go to sporting events, like at Camp Randall, I'm a football fan and stuff. They got like these cup holders, like over the urinals. Now, as a black person, I was not allowed to take anything in the bathroom. In fact, to this day, I still spit out gum if I'm going to the bathroom because it's like particles of boo-boo and pee in the air. And so, why did white people build cup holders, and why do they use them? I see white folks use them. Why do y'all take cups in the bathroom?
I actually never knew there was. So there's cup holders in the bathroom at the stadium? I've never seen.
In the bathroom, like right over the urinal. So it's like you walk into the urinal,
Huh.
you put your cup right here, and then you relieve yourself, and then you leave out.
Hey, I mean, I'll shoot straight. I've never brought anything in the bathroom like that. I don't know what. I've actually never seen cup holders in a bathroom.
Right. So you never used it. So Tyler, have you ever used a cup holder?
No.
Okay, in the bathroom.
But on that point, and I don't mean to step on a second,
No.
but even
I
like
mean,
when you go to bars and clubs, I don't know if any of y'all have
The
lived
big
that
bowls
life.
up there on the
No,
counter?
not even that, but it just for me, if I have a drink or something like that, I'm gonna finish it or I'm gonna leave it with somebody. I'm not taking it in the bathroom. Every time I go in there and in multicultural settings, my white brothers,
I have seen it in there
will
before.
walk
That's
in the
true.
bathroom and they'll put their cup on top of the urinal, which is the grossest thing ever. That cup is
I've
done.
seen it.
For
I
me.
That cup is just done for me, and yeah, that's crazy. So so you never seen this, so that's okay. Were white boys taught to wash their hands when they leave the bathroom? White young men.
I guess. I didn't know that was.
Because I see some people who just like they
I've
go in
seen
there
that.
and
It's a
they
little
close
sketchy.
the stall. So sometimes not even sometimes they're not standing. They're seated. And they'll just come out and look at that hair and kind of and then they'll go right back out to the disco party. And so I'm just wondering
It's questionable.
if you could just tell me what are white people thinking when they go into the stall and come out and.
I'm not sure if I have anything for this.
Well, you're never coming back to Madison again, are you? Not this way.
Not this way.
I've
I
seen
have
these
no
things
idea.
too.
I've
everywhere.
seen those things for sure. I mean, I was
Okay.
taught to wash my hands. I don't know. What,
And I know why. I know. Listen, white. Listen, don't you get offended because you know it's true.
I'm not easy.
Then I do that. So no. So this is all. It's all in good fun. And so you all are doing this great podcast, but you're also involved, in a faith community. You're part of a church.
Right.
I see white men do something that I don't see black men do in church. Like rub their wives' backs during worship. Why do white people? Are you married? Will, are you married?
I'm married.
Do you
yeah.
rub your wife's back in church?
Nah, I haven't.
But have you seen white guys do it?
I've definitely seen it.
Like when we say
It's
lift your
odd.
hands, we don't mean like goosing nobody. We mean like lift
No.
your hands up to the master. But like this brother's like he's
I've seen
holding
that.
the hymnal with his left hand, and he's like, I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm sitting behind you, and I'm trying to get into the spirit, and y'all got spiritual foreplay going on.
Getting his Johnny Gill on,
Get
rubbing
his
you the
Johnny
right
Gill
way
on.
and
I
all
see that
that.
in our church too. There's a mixed couple that does that, and the dude's white, and he does.
The dude's white. Tell him to stop.
I'll tell him.
Okay, please tell him. Tell him I said
It
stop.
is a little odd. It's a little awkward.
He's a little special. All right. Sometimes I fly international. I like to fly, but internationally, I see white men go to the bathrooms on the plane with no shoes on, just their socks. Now I fly enough to know what's on the floor, and I'm not talking germs. I'm talking
Yeah, that's questionable.
piss.
Yeah,
like I sit on the
that's-
floor. I see folks walk. I kind of look down. I sit on the aisle, look down like. He's going to the bathroom and he got like clean white socks. And then like 5 minutes later, go do 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 do. I'll take some more Pringles. What are white people thinking going to the bathroom on the plane with socks on?
Why your shoes off on the plane in the first
Why your
place?
shoes off on the
Hey,
plane?
bruh, yeah, I haven't flown that much, but I was just in Kenya, man, and these dudes took off their shoes, and man, the whole flight, man, I was about to puke. His
It was
feet
really
smelled
bad.
so bad.
That's because they went to the bathroom without their
That's
shoes
probably what
on.
happened. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe white privilege is over germs too. It could be.
Yeah, like, that is an idea for a new show. White privilege over
deep
germ. Dang, y'all
White
got
privilege over
everything.
germ.
Y'all
Next
don't even
one,
get
Will.
germ.
We don't even get germs. Don't
But
get
you wouldn't
germs.
do that. But would you do that? Would you take your shoes off on the plane and then go to the
I don't take
bathroom?
my shoes out many places at all, really.
When you take your shoes off and come to the house.
Yeah, that's something I
Sit
do have to
on-
learn. Like literally, I would always roll in the house with my shoes. If I go over to other people's house, I got to figure out the customs. But
Yeah, you do. Like at my house, my wife likes to take the shoes
yeah,
off.
so
So
different homes, but
do you sit on people's tables? I notice sometimes that my white friends will like come in and they'll just like sit on a table and have a Dorito or maybe a spotted cow. Like they just kind of like sit on the table like, hey, buddy, what you been up to? It's like, we gonna eat on that and you got your booty crack like right on the like
all the days booty sweat.
All the days booty sweat. Like we're like, if my grandmama saw me sit on, so I'm just curious. Do you sit on like dinner tables?
not dinner. I mean, my mom would kill me if I did that at home, but I mean, I've sat on tables before, not dinner tables.
Like
Maybe a
what kinda-
desk. I don't know. It depends.
Well,
okay,
that's not so bad because you don't
is that
eat off of
questionable?
that. But that's
That's deep.
maybe like, I don't know. I ain't thought about it that much. I guess.
That's real privilege. Just
That's
let me go
real.
Put my booty on your
Right.
table without asking permission.
oh my goodness. Okay, let me see if I can think of anything else. Oh yeah, we did a whole show on
Oh, I heard
Fckin
that show,
A.
man.
So can you please
I don't know.
explain for me and for the African American people in the studio, what does Fckin A mean to you?
I don't what does it mean?
What
to
does it
me?
mean? Like we've been trying to figure out. I've been hearing this term my whole
I think it's
life.
just a sub cuss word. Like
So like if
all
you
I've heard.
smash your finger or something, you'll say Fckin A.
I don't think I've ever said Fckin A, but I've heard it
Have
for
you?
sure.
But okay.
I think it's,
Is it a bad swear word? Like is
it's just
that
a substitute for the F
for the F word for F bomb?
Yeah, basically. In
So
my mind.
so like if somebody's like if I said that in the pulpit, would you say
Maybe not, because it's like it'd be like saying dang instead of damn or something like that.
okay
But,
and like boo boo instead of shit?
Yeah. I'd say that's the category.
Okay, I got you. Okay, because I'm trying to do this research. I want to know what this is. So I want to know, like, if someone says Fckin A, do I high five him? Do I run? Do I drop to the floor? Do I hit the emergency button on my iPhone? I just need to know that when one of my white brothers say Fckin A, is that good Fckin A? Is that bad Fckin A? Did he see somebody that was pretty? Somebody outside with a gun? I just need to know, man. What do I do when I'm around y'all?
Probably distress. I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. I actually haven't
I'm
heard
at a
that.
loss
I haven't
too.
heard that word in a long time until I heard it on you guys' podcast. I heard it in high school. I think was
I
the
used to
last
hear it in
time
high
I heard
school,
it.
too.
Yeah, high school's when I heard it, but I haven't heard it since.
Oh man, Will, you're a good sport, so I appreciate that for doing. You know what are white people thinking? Oh my goodness! But I will ask you: have you ever had grits?
Yeah, I've had grits.
Do you put butter and sugar on them? Butter or
Butter and
sugar or salt?
I've done salt.
That's my
I've
man
never
right
done
there.
sugar.
You ever tried it with sugar one time?
Try with sugar. I've always done butter and salt.
If you do it with sugar, all right, Kellen, stop looking, stop me. Stop, you looking at me sideways. That's what black
Okay.
people say when like people you like looking at me sideways, all under-eyed. If you do put some sugar on it, use some Domino sugar because that kind of is really it's extra sweet. It's got like pre-diabetes in it.
Pre-diabetes.
You do that in some good butter. Get some soft butter.
Okay.
But then you could put your scrambled eggs and break your bacon and sausage over in it.
That's how you do without the
With
sugar.
salt.
You might not even need salt if you got the bacon. So you
That does-
break the bacon up. You might even get a little bit of bacon grease. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to be real
Really?
fat, a little bit of grease, mix that up. You know what I'm saying? Some butter, your eggs. You got to eat a bowl.
That grease on top of the grits is a beautiful thing,
Oh,
man.
it
The way it
is.
just kind of sits
It
there and
is.
just gets absorbed. So just try it when you put the butter in. Have you ever tried it with sugar?
No, I can't.
You can't do it. Okay, all right.
I mean,
all right.
look, maybe one of these days I'll feel real adventurous and want to see, how the dark side lives.
How the dark side lives.
And I
Folks
might
down
try.
south in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I might try, but I've been eating grits. My grandma down in Miami wouldn't approve of that. You know what I mean? She wouldn't approve of that nonsense.
No, I
but,
got you.
I mean,
You know,
to each his own.
I'm telling you. Listen, Tyler told me about you, that you were kicking off this podcast, and so he actually sent me links after you guys started doing it. So, so I've had a chance to listen to you sometimes, like when I'm traveling, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate the very thoughtful critique that you have on current events. So it's not just giving news, but you're talking about how you see it through your various lenses, and you come at it, differently because you're, slightly different age groups, but different cultural perspectives, and I just like that. So I would love just to borrow part of that format for our discussion today, because I just have a couple of things that I would just love to get your take and perspectives on, particularly as fellow podcasters, and be thinking about this. Kind of tuck this away towards the back of your mind. Any thoughts or ideas or challenges that you may have for me? Like, I would love it if you would try to get this person on your show, if you would consider doing this. So at the end, I may come back and ask you about some of this. One of the things I love just to get your take on is, as we're talking, so my work is really surrounds trying to have a stronger community that benefits everyone. So like the tagline for my work for Nehemiah and for Justified Anger is a stronger Madison for all. Because when you focus on issues around black families, people sense that you're a black nationalist and all you care about are black folks. But I live in a community where we continue to receive accolades on Madison being the best place to live. But yet we have the state's worst incarceration of black men. We have the worst disparity of black kids, 4th and 8th grade. Economic disparity, unemployment in the state is about 3%, and it's double digits for black folks. So I feel that if I really work on strengthening the black community, it gets rid of the tale of two cities, and it helps us become a stronger community for all. But there are constantly people who will say, particularly white folks, who have said, haven't we made strides? Because it's so difficult for people to believe that with Barack Obama having been president, or Oprah being rich, or LeBron, or Michael Jordan, or Michael Jackson, that they are proof that they don't see color. And so this is a question to both of you. This isn't just to any one of you. But as we address issues of race, why do you think it's really important for so many people from mainstream America, and that's code for white people, to feel like, come on, you guys, things are not as bad as they used to? And I'm not saying you can lynch people legally. We certainly have brutality and people being shot. So we're questioning some of that. Right. But why do you think there's such a pushback? Why is it that people in majority culture really need to believe that things are not as bad as what we're saying? Your thoughts about why you think that that's important?
So you're asking why do white people need to believe that
that things are not as bad as sometimes we say when there's a shooting or something takes place? Because the question is, well, we can all vote, we can all live where we want to. You can go to school with white people, you can swim with white people now. That's proof that things are better. So you almost sound like you're an agitator if you continue to push for equality. Right. So why is it that there's a segment of the population that just so hell bent on stating we are so much better than we were in the 50s and the 60s?
Yeah, it always trips me out because when people say things like that, it's essentially saying, so you're saying it's okay now, and where we are now is good, even with all the disparities. But my honest opinion is that I think that, and Will and I have talked about this before, for most people in the mainstream America, I think what happens is to understand the realities of what we are dealing with, the realities of those gaps and those disparities, is to really truly understand what this country is, how this country's been built, how this country actually still operates. And because we are so tied up in, we have so much place in our sense of self and identity that for mainstream, a lot of their sense of self comes from their sense of their country and patriotism and what this country is.
Very true.
I think to acknowledge the reality is to have to change your entire worldview. You can't look at this country the same way when you know the actual truth of what it is, the truth of how it can be, how it's been built, and how it actually operates. You can't have those same blinders on. And so that means you then have to look at yourself differently. You have to challenge yourself differently. And you just have to change the way you view this.
You have to unlearn some things that have just been...
Right. And that's true. Just a shocker. And people... Not just in this area, but in a lot of areas are unwilling to do that. You want to hold on to who you think you are. And I think it's just too big for people. I think to really dig and dive into that, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously, there's walls being pushed, there's pushback because you just know that that's too much. That's too big. And to go down that path you have to be ready to do it.
Oh, that's really good, Kellen. Will, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would say, I agree with what you're saying, Kellen, but to be white in America is also to be comfortable, which means if you're confronted with anything like guilt, those type of things that kind of change that comfort, you got to create narratives to bring back this kind of naive comfort. That's
very insightful.
So I feel like that's part of why we fight to make that. And then on top of that, white America is built on individualism so strongly that I'm not tied to bigger systems. So it's hard for a white person to acknowledge something's wrong at a bigger systemic level than at some individuals are bad, some are good, this, that, and the other. So it is a reshaping, I think, of the worldview, which is why denial is easier. It keeps comfort, and just ignorance because of the way individualism works in the majority culture.
I like the way you linked individualism and comfort. So it reminds me, growing up as a kid, I probably stopped believing in Santa Claus 2 years before I admitted it. One, because I had a younger sister, but two, if I stated that I no longer believed it, I would no longer have Christmas as I've known it. And so I pretend like things were okay so I could keep getting hooked up by Santa Claus. And so I thought about that, Will, as you were talking, that if people really, you all may be too young to remember. I mean, you may know the movie, but Matrix was a huge. It was a blockbuster. But the idea that people lived in this unreal world and the work it took to break out of the Matrix to see how the world really is, it feels like that with this racism. The issues are doable, but I think for so many years it was just the way things worked, and it benefited white people, it benefited society, and it made America a superpower. You know, that's how we became rich. We ran the USA company and never had personnel, or had very small personnel, because we had black people working for free. And that made churches rich. It made, steel companies rich. It made shipyards rich. I mean, we built the infrastructure of this company on people we either enslaved or committed genocide towards, and just took their stuff and made America really, really what it was. But for people to open their eyes and to really understand, that means that it requires a huge shift. And so people think, well, we're better now. We don't do that to Native Americans. We don't do that to black people. But they don't understand that once you put those kinds of things in motion, those systems are still very, very present. And they've always been invisible, but we felt them in our pockets. We built universities with them. And again, in 200 years, we become a world power. What other society has done that when you think about the ones we've risen above? So your insight is helpful, because with all of that's happened, I think that we can still address the issues. But, again, like what I was saying, 100, 150 years ago, it was just the way things were. Now they're not like that anymore, but we don't believe that the residual effects are there. So now we're oblivious to the issues, so we can't address it. When they were more visible, they were too good to change. Now they're invisible. We don't believe that they even exist. And so I feel like we're even more powerless as a society to address these issues, because we have to first convince people that they exist.
Yeah.
Very true.
No, that's real. Yeah.
And so I think that that's the first act of business. That's why with our U.S. Black History course, we just talk about American history. We really come at it as much as we can from a politically neutral perspective and not from any particular bias. Let's just look at this academically. That's why I wanted to bring professors in. Not that professors are apolitical, but I didn't want to bring community organizers or folks who really had an agenda. I wanted people who really studied history as a science that could let you know what was happening in America while slavery was going on. So it wasn't just, here's Black history. That's why we call it U.S. Black history, because we talk about what's happening. America was becoming a superpower, and white folks are taught it's because they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and worked hard.
Yeah.
They act like the whole slavery issue was a separate side effect. It's like a history book. You got 3 chapters on whatever, and then there's a little side note about, oh yeah, slavery was going on here, and then maybe that's chapter 14. But all this other history was going on, and these black folks over here aren't really part of it.
Exactly. And so that's why we spend the first session, we take a look at what was happening in West Africa and the world, what's happening in the rest of the world, and just sort of bring people up to modern day. But I'm surprised with the 600, almost 700 people who've gone through our history class, most of them didn't know what's pure American history. Now, they could say that they didn't know Black history, but what they find out in our classes, they don't know American history either.
Yeah,
so popping that bubble, I think is key. Anything else you guys want to say on that before I move to my next?
You broke that down, put a little bow on it.
I did. Well, thank you for that. I want to know. I'm at this interesting age. I'll be 55 in about a week and a half.
Congratulations,
man! Thank you.
Happy early birthday,
man! Thank you. Being a brother and doing that, not being in jail and not being shot and having a degree and family. I'm very grateful. I'm thankful to God about that. But I'm realizing that for so much of my career, I was a young man trying to find the older generation that would pass the baton to me. It's just now dawning on me that I've become an elder statesman. That I'm the one that should be spending time with younger leaders, pouring into them, encouraging them, because there's no switch in my mind that just says, okay, you're an old guy now. I mean, so when my beard grows out, it's a little gray. This isn't dyed. This is real. I know this is real color. I got a little right there, but I'm saying, but what I mean is I'm starting to realize I'm supposed to share wisdom. But I understand what the previous generation did and did not hand off to me in terms of what it means to build cross-cultural realities, in terms of leading. There are certain things that they didn't leave, and I had to figure it out for myself. There's a lot of criticism on younger generations, how you all do things why you do things. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think my generation neglected to leave your generation by way of leadership training, influence, affirmation? I'd love to hear what you think in general, but also if you would just for a moment, Kellen, speak to what you think Black leaders didn't tell you about society or church or work or life. And then Will, the same thing. What do you think those who are white and in leadership, because white leaders is not a real word. I mean, it's not a real concept. Only the Black community has Black leaders. Right. The white community just has leaders. Yeah. Everybody. So I'm just curious, what and don't hold back either, because it's nice having this cross-generational discussion, but whether it's pertaining life, politics, entrepreneurship, spirituality, what are some of the things that my generation just blew it? What did we blow it on concerning your generation?
Man, let me tell you about your generation.
Come on now, come on.
I mean, look,
security.
Here's the short answer, which sounds like a cop-out, but I think it's true, and I'd say pretty much everything. And I say that not because...
You said everything.
Yeah. I say that not because I think that your generation, lacked any sort of intelligence or anything, but I always remember this when I was in college. We used to play spades all the time. And I remember at the spades table one time, one of my guys that said something. He said, "Man, we're the first generation of crack babies." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Think about it. Like, me personally, I was born in '84. So all my friends they're born between like 82 and 86. Right? Sure. And so that's pretty much the first generation of, around the first generation of babies being born to, parents, strung out on crack and, that whole era of the 80s. Right. So our parents, and not my mother or father, sure. People, but our generation's parents was the first generation that was really affected.
They were New Jack City people.
Yeah, we got, people talking 18 to 30 years old that are getting caught up in these drugs and that, dealing with New Jack City, just all of that stuff going on in the 80s. And so I think because of that generation was just demolished and devastated. And then subsequently, like in the 90s and all that stuff, we're spending so much time trying to restore that generation, these drug addicts, these people that were swept up in jails and all this sort of thing, that the kids of that generation were left hanging in a lot of ways. We didn't have parents. We didn't have resources. We didn't have structure. And so the first thing, we didn't know how to have families. We didn't know how to be married. We didn't know how to really raise our kids. We didn't know how to be in relationships. We didn't see it.
Sure.
And so not only did we not see it, but I don't think people realize like, hey, we need to actually teach them how to do that. And so we talk about now divorce rates and all this stuff. It's not surprising. My generation grew up, we didn't see marriage. We didn't understand marriage. We didn't see, people raising their children properly. I was blessed to have, good parents and a good family, but even, my parents were not, my parents were divorced when I was young. So like, I talk to my wife all the time. I say, we're figuring this thing out. As we
trying to become something you've never even seen.
Exactly. And, you'll see in churches and things like that, there's times when people are trying to, reach out and teach that younger generation, but we're missing it. We don't know how to do it.
That's insightful.
We don't have it. And so it's just a piece that's missing there. And I think that then flows into everything else. You talk about socially, politically, but like all of that, we don't know how to we don't know how to relate to our spouse and raise our kids. We don't know anything. So I mean, we're figuring it out, and we're kind of out there without a paddle, trying to teach each other. Sure. And you're gonna have your ups and downs with that. So.
And we know statistically that, and this is an old statistic, so it's probably uglier now. But a child born to parents who aren't married are 5 times more likely to be raised in poverty.
All right.
So there's some economics of what you're talking about. That even with the best intentions, it puts you in harm's way. So if we're not seeing those things and our parents aren't together and that's what we're modeling, we're bequeathing poverty to the next generation without even thinking about it. Man, that's real talk. That's very honest. Anything else you can think about?
Probably.
No. I just wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off. But no,
what was actually serious on my mind right there is because I'm a teacher. My man, armor bearer here, Kevin, works with kids. Will actually work with kids too. We all work in the education field on some level. But so what's funny is now I see that next generation. I work with kids 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 that come from people of my generation,
Right.
and those that lacked those things, and I see what their kids
It exponentiates.
Yeah, it's just this is I don't know if I should. Well, look, I'll tell a quick anecdote. I was at a middle school game a while ago, and there was a kid that was playing. I knew the kid, so I was watching. And there was a lady that was arguing with the referee in front of me. And she was arguing with him, and they was going back and forth. And she said, "You kick me out if you want. I used to go to this school. I ain't care when in, and I don't care now." And I found out that was the mother of the kid I was watching. This is a mother,
Wow.
Not a young woman. She's yelling in the sidelines, yelling.
Right.
She ain't care when she was here, and she sure don't care now. And I'm like, this is the person that's raising this child.
Herein lies the problem.
Yeah, and so so when I see these kids, I got to think, what are they getting?
Sure,
And like you said, it exponentiates. I learned a new word today. Thank you.
But it also makes me wonder, Kellen, what do we need to do? I mean, this is just a thought, so we might have to just have you back on the show to talk about this. But what does my generation need to do that's redemptive with your generation? Because just because, you're an older man now, a grown man with a family, doesn't mean that you've seen enough of that family structure modeled.
Right.
So I think there's still work for my generation and your generation to do, because you're going to be closer to that young man on that field than I am. And so I don't think we can get away with not finding out how we work more closely together, because there's still some things that you need from the older generation, and we can't just wash our hands of it by just saying younger people don't want to listen to us. Yeah. So
and my generation are at the point where we're realizing that we're missing something, and people want it, people need it. So I think it's about intentional relationships, and that there's all sorts of ways that can happen, but intentional relationships, if we're speaking, Christianese here in the church, it'd be like intentional discipleship and things of that nature. But
what they call it in the streets.
Calling in the streets is just mentorship, or just being an old head, being someone's OG. You know what I mean?
Like we got to bring back OG.
Yeah, you got to bring back the OG and bring back the old heads, and just here to drop wisdom, drop some knowledge. But even deeper than that, have somebody over for dinner. Somebody. If you know somebody, you go to church with somebody and they got a nephew or they got a niece or whatever, and whatever age they are, like just invite somebody over for dinner.
Really
like
good.
We don't do that no more. Like just invite somebody over for some dinner.
You give me a thought for a new segment. Will gave me a thought earlier. He didn't say it, but he gave me a thought. Myths white people believe. I want to do a segment on that. Choose to believe. But what you said about the OGs, the old heads. Bringing old men into the studio and not critiquing the younger generations, but we might just have one younger person call in with some thoughts or some ideas. We were thinking about this around fathering fatherless fathers, but not necessarily making it around the lack of fathers, because obviously Kellen has a father, a good father. But if we can make it around the modeling of an older and younger generation of black men talking about here's some things we want you to know, or that we should have told you, this is on us.
Right.
That could be really, really powerful. So, man, thank you for that.
Those pearls of wisdom. Yeah,
those pearls, no, that's important. Will, how about you? What are things that you feel in society that older white, we call them elders or OGs, you probably call them politicians and librarians, but
politicians,
scoutmasters. I'm kidding. I'm just messing with you. I like you, Will. That's why I'm messing with you. But like the older white leaders in the community, what did they not? Where did they leave you vulnerable?
Yeah, well, that's tough. I've been racking my brain a little bit. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is there's obviously always massive critique without a lot of backing up for the whole millennial generation, particularly from white baby boomer type generation, right? And most of that critique is around being too soft, being too sensitive when it comes to anything, but it's really just that there was no recognition of anything that had to do with justice, anything that had to do with the other person, just kind of that rampant individualism that was handed down was what crippled that's why we have to have classes to teach the next generation of particularly white kids what this is. But then the fact that there's critique for being now sensitive to things that's called soft. So there's a lot of trying to think of the right words for it, but I feel like there's just been that generation to me blocked off a whole world that as a millennial generation, we had to go seek. And a lot of us got that in the wrong places. Some of us maybe got exposed to that in college. Like, it was all just give or take. So now we got, you see the results of America with Trump and things like that, right? So it's like there's a whole world blocked off because of the way that white generation works, that now the millennial generation has to go seek in terms of the rest of the world, the whole world, right? Something outside of white America.
That's deep. You said it. And when you said that, I'm sitting there thinking about like previous generations where it was, you graduate high school, you get married, you go to work, you might go have a beer or two with your friends, and you come home and do it again in the morning. You're not worried about the outside
life
world.
Is so routine, right? That, and because white privilege is so strong that it's not even recognized, right? That's not even a word. That's like a cuss word to some older generation,
right?
White in particular, right? Is that a whole world, not just like Black America, Hispanic America, but the entire world, all other continents are not even in your grasp to think about because they don't matter. They're not real. This is the world. Right.
People try to get you to think about it, it's like rabble rousing and causing trouble.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, but that's left a whole generation vulnerable for seeking out what does the world look like, and then who knows who's handing them what it looks like. So now you got people wilding out thinking, everybody's all over the place for a whole generation. So,
earlier, Will, I was messing with you by asking you, we had this segment about what are white people thinking. But in all seriousness, I mean, I'd love to get your perspective on a couple of other things. One is we sometimes act as if, if you look at KKK, they used to wear sheets, so you would know that they were the doctors and the pastors and the sheriffs. But we never blamed the sheets for their violence. It was the men wearing the sheets.
Right.
I think Donald Trump is the sheet. I don't think he's powerful enough to be that.
Yeah.
So what I'm noticing is that my white colleagues are tripping over Trump, but they don't understand. This is what I did on my segment about ventriloquism. They don't understand he's just a sheep, but he personifies a mentality or thought that's been out there, just coming above board. I think he's helping to make it okay.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing the proliferation of what has shaped policy and thought and textbooks, and if I can be honest, theology.
For sure. Yeah.
And biblical thought and interpretation. And so I guess that's more of a statement than a question. But I think the question for you is, I remember my mother telling me my coming home. I went to Head Start kindergarten in first grade in Chicago. I was showing a friend my kindergarten picture. 40 kids in kindergarten. One was white. Teacher was white, but 39 black kids, one white kid. And so I moved to Madison, where I was one of two black kids almost my entire life in homeroom. And so I wasn't taught that I was a slave. I wasn't taught that I was inferior. Mrs. Turner, my first grade teacher, asked me what I wanted to be when I was 6. And I said, the president. And she wrote, Alexander will be the president of the United States. It wasn't snickering. She wouldn't let anybody snicker. Yeah. It was the sense, she actually tracked my career until she was 94 or 95. Oh, wow. When I moved to Madison, she was my pen pal.
That's a real teacher.
But Mom said when I came home, she remembered me coming saying, Mom, were we really slaves? Because Madison, a good school system, felt it was necessary to instill that in me. And so I remember when I started thinking differently about myself and my culture. As a white male, you weren't born feeling inferior any more than I was born feeling inferior. Someplace somebody interjected, they injected something, they taught something. You can either speak for yourself or maybe some white men in general. Where does a sense of superiority or privilege begin to rear its head and become a reality? Because I've seen young white kids at clinics. Yeah. If my daughter's playing in the toy box, they're playing in the toy box. They're not saying, ooh, you're black, ooh, you're white.
Right.
Kids begin to learn this somewhere. Do you remember any of those places in your life or in the lives of your friends where that sense of separation, that sense of superiority begins to set in? Because I think it's important for people to begin to recognize that. And I didn't give you much chance to think about it.
No, but I that brings to mind a story. I remember the first time that I realized it was an issue. So my dad's a church planner.
Okay.
So he had planted a church in Colorado. I grew up there for all my childhood. Okay. And then we came to Ohio when I turned a teenager. And I had these friends that would always come help church plant from Mississippi, older white couple. They're like a third grandparent to me, right?
Sure.
And where I was in kind of Toledo area, Ohio, when he's playing this church, I remember we were just playing football out in the field, right? With a bunch of kids, Hispanic, black, white, a bunch of kids out there. I had some really good friends. And I remember coming home, and this older couple from Mississippi that I always help was so proud of me because I played with the black kids. And I remember being really confused. I was 13. I remember being really confused, like, why you're proud of me.
These are my friends.
Right. Yeah, because at that time it's still like this innocence, right?
Sure.
So it kind of shook me then. It took me a while to figure out, like, why are you proud that I played with the black kids? But I think there's like an awareness that starts to come probably from just the way the older generation, at least in my experience, right? Sure. Put those things down. But I mean, yeah.
Did it change the way you thought about playing with black kids? Like, I mean, you didn't go outside to play football or catch thinking, I'm about to make somebody proud because I'm going to play with black kids.
Right.
But you're a grown married man and you're still thinking about that conversation. So how did that carry itself into how you played with kids or how you didn't play with them?
I don't know how it affected, because growing up, I was heavily influenced by black culture through hip hop. That's a very small segment of black culture, right? So that also is like, I'm living in a white world. I'm influenced by one very small segment, so this is what I understand of this. And then I have this kind of injected idea of, I'm proud you're playing with the black kids type thing. I think it just became more aware that this is actually a problem, right? That this is not a problem for me personally, but this is actually something that exists. I don't know, because the only times it comes up is it becomes surprising to me because there's things I didn't notice. You begin to notice things. Like I remember growing up, my grandma and grandpa were in Columbia, South Carolina, which is the South. That's the real South.
That's the deep South,
right? But it was nothing to me. That was my favorite place to go Christmas. But then like you start recognizing the way society's built after those type of comments. And so I remember 14, 15 being there, and there was always a dude who always worked for my grandparents named Willis, older black gentleman, always helped my grandma garden. But I begin to see the way the society was formed in terms of these hierarchies that I didn't recognize before. Before he was just a family friend who helped out, you know what I mean? But then I realized, that's not really how this works. Like, there's a reason he's out here working these dead-end random jobs for white people, and why my grandparents sitting pretty, got master's degrees and are, doing fine. So I think it just begins to open your eyes to these societal problems, and then it's the question of how do you react to those societal problems of the way that everything's shaped.
Sure. Yeah. With your love for hip-hop culture, was it the beat? Was it the message? Was it the swag of the all the above?
I don't know what it was. I mean, it wasn't very good hip-hop.
All lyrics, that's all. All he cared about was the poetry, right?
Poetry, man, poetry.
It's poetry.
That's good. Yeah, I remember. 13. That was when what was that? It was like 50 Cent, G Unit were big. All those got Little John and the East Side Boys. Not very good.
G Unit tank tops. That's
Dirty tank tops.
Yeah. So not very good hip hop at that. I don't know. It's just something I was attracted to, but also recognizing how that that influenced how I understood black culture, even though it's a very, very small segment of it. Right. So, just the way those different things shape your worldview, because in white America, black is in entertainment, black is in sports, but it's not really anywhere else. Right. If you don't live amongst it. Right. Which is most of rural America. Right. Most people aren't growing up in places like Chicago, in terms of like, there's a lot of white people who are not near those type of diverse locations. You know what I mean? So.
No, I appreciate that insight. I got one last question because I don't want to keep you all too long.
Look, I'm about to camp out of here. What you mean?
I read a discussion today. I think it was on social media, one of the outlets on social media, and Van Jones, the CNN commentator and author, was making comments about his thoughts as to whether or not white kids could or should dress up as Black Panther for Halloween. So I'm curious. Just your thoughts. And he said it was okay. I mean, I could have brought that out later. He said it's okay. It's okay because 7, 8-year-old kids are thinking about Marvel characters and And I think in light of what's been going on with Megyn Kelly,
Right.
does that seem to be some type of cultural appropriations, or is that same as blackface? I'm just curious. That's not how I necessarily see it, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. If you're out with your kids, if you practice or do trick or treating, but if you see, some white kids, walking around, I don't think the kids should do the Wakanda sign. We got to draw the line.
That's fair.
Skip can't do that, but he can certainly wear the T'Challa suit. But Skip cannot be doing like Wakanda forever.
Skip and Chuck.
Right.
Chuck.
And Randy.
Actually, as soon as I said Chuck, I like 4 black people I know named Chuck. Just popped in my head. I shouldn't have said that.
I know you got to do that. That's right. That's right. You got to do. You got to say something like Liam.
There you go. I don't know any black Liams.
I don't know any black Liams. But thoughts about that? Should white kids be able to dress up as T'Challa?
I don't know. I don't think I'm opposed to it because it's a superhero character. As long as they know he's black. I mean, yeah.
I think that's the question. Like your parents. So does that open the door to talk about race? Is that too heavy for a 6-year-old who just wants some now ladies and some?
You recognize the significance of the Black Panther, because like they didn't know about the Black Panther's been around for a while, but they didn't know about it until this movie came out. So even seeing the significance of why do you want to be Black Panther now, like why was he not significant in the superhero world before this in terms of mainstream superhero world, right? Yeah. But I don't know if I see a problem. What you think?
Sure.
No, I mean, it's fine with me. I think what makes the Black Panther. So I don't have an issue at all with it's.
Right. I don't either.
You want to dress up, and you want to dress up as a black character, white character, whatever. I think what is interesting is that the significance of Black Panther in the culture, is that besides the fact that it came out, it was a good movie, people enjoyed it. But the significance is that obviously it's the first black superhero movie to A, be invested in on that level, and then B, have this. Some level of success. I shouldn't say this success because it's almost unprecedented.
And black people shaped it too. They weren't just acting in it, but black people shaped it.
Black people shaped it in part. The movie and everything involved in it is a celebration on some level of blackness. Even though Wakanda isn't a real country, it's a celebration of Afrocentric culture, right? And so that is the significance there. So it's not just a superhero who happens to be black or a character that just happens to be black, which, by the way, we could have a lot of other characters and heroes and things in Hollywood. Hey, how about instead of making this guy blonde and from Colorado, we just make him a black guy? Like that could happen, but Black Panther's significance is its blackness. So yeah, it's cool if, little Johnny, Jimmy, Joe, whatever, wants to be Black Panther, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. But I do, as you mentioned, think it is a possibility to kind of, just lightly introduce kids to, the fact that, hey, one cool thing about Black Panther is that like he's the first black superhero to get this level of love. I don't know, I'm spitballing off the top of my head here, but yeah, in general, like, hey, I'm like, whatever, be whoever you want to be,
It's Halloween. It's a kid, right?
Yeah, like I don't trip. Just don't put blackface on.
Right.
Don't
At the end of the day, right. When you take the mask off,
don't put no red lipstick.
That's
on.
right. Don't exactly when you take the mask off. Liam has still got to look very European.
Yeah. Black kids been going to Superman, Spider-Man for years. We don't wear blonde wigs and paint our face in chalk or whatever.
But I used to tie bath towels around my neck and run through my house and jump off of furniture because I wanted to be Superman. Yeah. As a kid, but you're right. I didn't put baby powder on my face.
No baby powder. No.
There's levels to this.
There's levels to this.
Yeah, none of that.
Oh man, listen, gentlemen, I'm so glad that you all are here. Again, I'm really honored that you all reached out to us. Again, I'm impressed by the success of Wild Wild World. I like the impetus behind it, the fact that you all are modeling who you are, thinking about the world and offering solutions and insights from your perspective. I think is really, really key. Tell the Black Like Me family where they can follow you all on Twitter individually or your podcast. Just brag on yourselves for just a minute. Where do they go?
No, don't point at me, Will. You got it all memorized. You got the spiel going on.
I got these tweets memorized. But you know where you can find me. Government name again. William R. Horne, Horne. I want to see Kellen fall asleep on 2 podcasts today. That's an accomplishment.
Most boring Twitter handle ever. Put that government.
And Kellen, what's yours? I got yours too, but
I don't even remember mine.
Yourself?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
You got it. Boy _K _ OLBOY.
Although I'm taking over the official Wild Wild World Twitter account. Yeah.
You taking it over?
I'm taking it over. The takeover is in effect. Yeah, Wakanda forever.
You can find that
Forever,
Kingdom X Dreams. That's the network. You can find Kellen taking that over since his Twitter followers lack, but he'll be there one day.
Hey man, you ain't got to throw shots right now.
I'll throw shots when I need to, man. We've been working on
It's
this.
hard. It's hard to gain followers when you don't tweet. That's
That's
kind
fair.
of how that
That's
works.
fair. That's fair.
You know, the world has changed. I'm hoping one day you all say, well, my government twiddle handle is this is my government twiddle. I'm saying twiddle. My government Twitter
That's
handle.
a new app. That's
twiddle.
a new app right there.
Well, I just got listen. I want 5%
advanced
on
Twitter.
that twiddle. Man.
Somebody call the copyright office, patent office, whatever office.
So listen, gentlemen, I appreciate you because you've given a shout out of our show. I appreciate the fact that you've listened. Just as we're winding down, suggestions, thoughts of either guests you think I should have or a segment that we might do. Any suggestions you want to give this old head?
Oh yeah.
Yes, go
Well,
ahead.
but look, so you had a couple ideas. You came up with a couple ideas
Sure.
for sections for the show, which I think are pretty dope. There's one table I want to shout out. Actually, Will put me on to this podcast, but it would be really cool if you could have them on.
yeah.
I don't know if I got the reach to get them yet, but there's a podcast called Truth Table, which is
It's
ran
Truth-
by
Truth-
Truth's Table. Yeah.
Oh,
And it's three black women started this. It's actually only about a year old as well.
they killing
It's Michelle Higgins, Christina Edmondson, and Ekemini Yuan.
Ekemini.
I'm sorry.
Michelle
Ekemini.
Higgins from St. Louis.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's a
St.
friend of
Louis.
mine.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
follows me
Oh,
on Twitter.
you got it.
Well, we already got a
Get them
connection
in
right
there.
there.
I wanna
them
get her
on
to come
there,
here and preach. She
'cause
follows
they,
me.
They're dope. They do a lot
they
of stuff.
kill
They
it.
talk about a lot of different. Sometimes I do entertainment, whatever. I still got
Yeah,
on my
they're
phone
big.
here. I got the Black Klansman episode saved because I haven't actually seen the movie yet. So, but they break stuff down.
You're supposed to
Hey,
have Rob
Michelle
out there.
Higgins. Michelle, I need you to reach out to your boy. Hey, please tell your mom and your dad hello for me. And she was a speaker at the last Urbana
Oh yeah.
conference,
Yeah.
and my wife and I were in charge of praying for all the speakers. So we got a chance
that's
to.
I went to
Just
Urbana
to-
way back in like 07 or something like that.
Oh.
Way back in the day. So
Oh, I spoke at the one 96, 2000, and 203. I was one of their speakers.
hey, look,
See?
there's connections all
So,
over the place. But yeah,
Truth's
they
Table.
got a
Yeah.
dope show. I
Yeah,
like
that's a nice show.
Okay,
That's
so
a nice
folks,
show.
if you are in the St. Louis area, please ask Michelle to hit me up. I'm gonna get on Twitter as soon as we leave the studio. Any other suggestions? That's really good.
Then look, I don't know. Maybe
We can talk about over dinner,
in the
too.
studio. Some fresh coffee. Or,
Okay, that's right.
No,
That's
you-
right.
You need to get your armor
Armor
bearer.
bearer Kevin. See, we thought when y'all crossed state lines, we didn't want to really insult you, so we just thought Kevin was going to take care of all of that. So Kevin, we're going to need you to. He's from here, so he knows we're all. Where
Armor bearer
Greenbush
Kevin
is. Kevin, yeah, we're going to need him. Tyler, I'm going to need you to work on Kevin. We're going to have to get Kevin. So listen, you all. Let's keep encouraging each other, pushing each other's stuff. But again, I appreciate you. So best of luck, great
Thank you
success,
very
much
much.
success to the work that you're doing. I will say, Kellen, that Minneapolis has a great group of Black Like Me followers, but they let the Seattleites and the Los Angelinos pass them. So if y'all out there, the Minneapolis folks, come on, Wisconsin's not that
I don't
far
know.
away. We
I think
understand
they
the
just got
cold
better
winters.
Wi-Fi in Seattle. That's all.
You think that's what it
They
is?
just got better Wi-Fi. It ain't
So
no
listen,
followers.
your homegrown, your native son from the Twin Cities is in the studio today. So Minneapolis listeners, you need to really do some crazy downloading when you hear this.
Let's go.
And hey, Seattle, they're trying to show y'all up. So y'all need to represent, because what I want to do is, in a few months, Tyler, I want us to get on the road and go try to do a show at a coffee shop or something with like the 3 highest cities with followers. So listen,
that'd be dope.
Minneapolis,
Yeah, let's go.
I love
Let's
to
go.
get
Step
up
it up,
there
bro.
before January comes. So listen, Minneapolis,
I'm gonna have to wait.
Seattle, LA, Chicago, New York City, New Jersey. I think the app just shows it's just New Jersey, but we need you all to really, really, really step up. So in about a week or two, we're going to see how you all are responding. But Minneapolis, I need you to kick some butt. Show that you're from the Midwest, from the tundra. So listen, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of our show. This has been another exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. Please subscribe, download, listen, tell your friends, tweet out the shows, send us your comments, your thoughts, your ideas. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you can go to alexg.com to read my blogs and to just find out other things that are going on, how I could speak or share or coach or encourage in your area. So this has been another exciting show. We're going to keep them coming, but thank you so much. This month in October, we've had our best number of downloads. And so Black Like Me listeners, let's keep doing this. Have a great day, and keep making this world better, because you're sharing what you've learned, and you're doing your part to bring us together so that we can promote better unity. Thank you so much for tuning in to us.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex G's amazing work at www.alexg.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.